things like that.
So it's mainly on the support side you mean to say, right? That's good to know anyway. Yeah, so since you have vast and WCS knowledge, it should be easy for you to pick up this particular course. So sit along and understand what we're going to talk about in this particular course. That's going to be the demo session. I'm going to talk about what exactly are you going to learn in this particular course. So which will give you an informed decision whether this is the course that you have been looking for. So you would be able to take the right decision whether I should continue with this course or not. So that that will build your career. All right. So fine.
Okay.
That's good to know. All right. Anybody can talk about Vishnu. From what background is basically?
Hi, this is Vishnu.
Hi Vishnu. Good to know you're back. Yeah, 10 minutes.
So you want my details?
Yes, please. That will help me tailor the course.
No, actually I work at the same position as AJ, so there's not much difference between me and him. So we work as the same WebSphere commerce admin.
All right, so that's good. So you already have some skills on the support side. Good to know. All right, then let's begin this particular session. Like I told you, this session is mainly on what exactly are going to learn in WCS. What exactly is this course about? What are the points that you'll be learning? So like I said, this will help you decide whether this is the course you've been looking for. All right. So let's begin with that. All right. So this course, I think you can see my screen, right, everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. All right. So this course is on WCS version 7, the current version, and we're going to talk about the admin. We are going to look at it from the admin certification perspective. So that is what IBM has prescribed that you should have skills on to take up the administration certification. All right. So if you attend any IBM training on WCS administration, this is the same thing that you will learn. All right. So in fact, the course contents have been taken from IBM's training sessions only. So prescribed training. So this is about that. All right. Now I have divided this particular course into 7 different modules. The first 3 talks about from the project perspective. So that means when you have a WCS project going on, what all tasks as a WCS administrator you will be performing, I'll be talking about that. And the last 4 will be more focused on support. So that is, if suppose you already have a project which has gone live, what are the tasks that you perform to do the support part of the site so that it is always highly available. All right, so that's the breakup of the course. So first 3 slides that I'm going to talk about today are to do from the project phase, and the next 3, because as a WCS administrator you will be involved both in the project as well as in the support side. So the last 4 slides are going to talk about what all you do from the support side, and a couple of you are already from support, so you might be aware of some of the points that I'm going to discuss here. All right, so let's begin. Now the first slide is basically more of theoretical in nature. So the first 2-3 sessions, it will be about 3 sessions, and each day our session will be for 1.5 hours. So we'll be sitting for 1 hour 30 minutes. Once a week. That is, we'll have Monday to Saturday India time mornings, and the schedule will be fixed by Mr. Amir, and then it will be the course will continue for about 6 weeks. All right, so 1.5 hours daily, 6 days a week, and it should complete in about 6 weeks. All right, so we'll be using a VM environment which Mr. Amir will share it with you, where you can practice whatever hands-on that we'll be doing. So I'll be using a VM environment to show you this, how you do the installation, this, how you do the configuration, whatever. So whatever I do, you'll also have the same setup, which you can practice at your home whenever you get the time. It would be preferable if you can spare additional time and do the practice the same day before you can forget what was discussed 2-3 days back. All right, so that will be good if you can practice the same day. But again, so you will also have the same environment. But the first 3 days are more or less we get introduced to WCS. Some of you are already from that background, So this might be like a repeat, but I'll have to go through in each and every point because some of the terms that I use here will be repeated over the course. All right. So the first part we're going to talk about is the architecture. So in this part, we're going to talk about what is WCS made up of. That is the minimum WCS, what it is made up of. And if you work with VAS, WCS.
Let me
Sorry, go ahead,
talk.
please.
I just want to know if you record these sessions and would you be able to send them over to us, if so we happen to take the course and stuff.
Okay. Mr. Amir is recording this session and yes, he will be sharing it with you. But one point to note is we will not be recording every session. We will be recording only the sessions that you miss and we will be sharing it with you.
Okay. All right. No problem.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So yeah, I was talking about the architecture. So this part we're going to talk about what are the components that WCS is made up of. Like most typical enterprise application, it has the web server and the plugin. And VAS is the only application server supported, and it has got the commerce component and the database component. All right, so these are the base components. And with this, what you can do is WCS, as you know, is more of an order capture tool that helps you to capture the order. That means I can come to your store and using WCS, I'll be able to place an order. So I can select the item that I want, add to my shopping cart, and then go through the payment process, the checkout flow where I give you my address and then I make the payment and then I get a confirmation telling yes, your order has been placed and it will be shipped within 7 days, 15 days, whatever your shipping policies are. So this is what WCS can do. All right. But so that means it's only one part of it. So that means it helps you capture the order. But once an order is captured, you are supposed to fulfill the order. So what I mean by that is, so once you get the order, you need to ship the order to my home or whatever the address I have provided and ensure that it reaches me, and then you get an acknowledgement telling that the order has been successfully delivered. All right. So, and then if at all you have a waiting period, that is a return policy, you have a return policy. If you don't like a product, you can return within 7 days or whatever. So your order, my order should be kept active in your database for maybe that much period of time. And after that, you can close the order. All right. Now, this is what is happening. And WCS supports only the order capture part of it. So how do you fulfill the order? How do you manage the order after the order has been fulfilled? All that is done by other components. All right. So WCS basically integrates with a lot of other products. So because it does one section of it, there are a lot of other points that has to be done when you talk about a total e-commerce solution. Okay. So when you talk about a total e-commerce solution, not just about order capture, how you manage your order after the order has been placed, how do you fulfill the order, from which warehouse do you fulfill, how do you transport the order, all those details. We're going to talk about it a little bit in detail in the course as we go on. So, WCS has to integrate with other products which can do this functionality. And if you have heard about IBM Sterling products, IBM has taken over this organization, the company Sterling. And Sterling used to provide all these backend tools. Now, what are these backend tools? All the order fulfillment tools. Like they have an application for order fulfillment. So we call it as OMS, which you might be familiar with now. Order management system. Now, what is this? This is used to fulfill that order, whatever I told you, right? When once the order is placed, what happens is you will have to ensure that the payment is, see, what happens when I place the order, I would have made the payment. Bank would have approved, okay, this payment is approved. But the thing is, that amount should get transferred to your account. That's the first part which happens after the order is placed. So once my order is placed, what happens? Your accounts team will take over the order. What they do, they raise a ticket with the banking provider telling, yeah, you have approved this particular payment, can you transfer it to our account? So what the bank will do, they will transfer the amount to the company's account. Once that is done, the accounts team will say payment is completed. So you can then what will happen? The order will move to the fulfillment team. So fulfillment team is where it goes to the warehouse where the order needs to be packed. Now for this, what happens? Once it reaches the fulfillment team, that is the warehouse. In the warehouse, there is a person who's called as a pick packer. Okay, in WCS or in e-commerce terminology, who's a pick packer? He's the person who actually gets the details about your order. He picks up the product that needs to be packed and then he packs, all right, and then prints all the labels that are needed and pastes it on the delivery. I mean, whatever box or package that has been kept ready for you. He prepares it. This is called as the pick packing. He's a pick packer who does all this stuff. So then what happens? He will send it to the dispatch team. And the dispatch team, they will find where it has to go, and then they will send it on the right mode of transportation. It could be surface transport, so that means they'll wait for the lorry or the van that has to pick it up if it's a surface transport, and they'll find out, okay, this has to go to, let me say, the warehouse is in Delhi, and you have to ship it to Bangalore. So that means, okay, so we'll put it in this particular wagon or lorry or whatever, van, whatever. So they decide, the dispatch team will ensure it. Otherwise, if it's a overnight delivery, they might have to send it to the cargo unit of the airport, wherever they have whatever the transportation mechanism that they have arrived at. So they'll have to send it to that particular place. So they will arrange for that particular part. So this is the dispatch team's work. So then the logistics team takes over of delivering the package to your door. All right, and then what happens? They will send a proof of delivery back to the company which sent the dispatch. All right, so they'll have to send, we call this as the POD, proof of delivery. Once the proof of delivery reaches the company back, what will happen? It will update the WCS database telling the order has been successfully delivered. So then what happens? WCS will wait for the return period, because if suppose I don't like the product, I might return it within 7 days, 10 days, whatever your return policy says. If you don't like the product, return to us within 7 days. Okay. So if at all you are told that, so I might keep that, and if suppose I don't like the product, I might return it. So if suppose I don't return it, and the 7 days, which is your return policy period, is up, a scheduler will run. Okay. Scheduler is an activity. We are going to talk about that in detail as we go. The scheduler will run, and then what it will do, it will close that particular order because 7 days is up. It's an automated function. So this happens. So this is what happens. So that means for all this, you have so many backend tools. Like what we talked about, we have the OMS, Order Management Service. What is the Order Management Service? So it has to take the order and send it to the right warehouse. So like I told you, once the accounts team closes the payment part, it has to send it to the warehouse. So now you might have multiple warehouses. Okay, so you might have one warehouse in Delhi, one in Mumbai, one in Chennai, whatever. So you will have to, your OMS system will have to decide which warehouse to send it to. So then once the order is sent to the right warehouse, then you have an application which is called as the warehouse management system, in where so they will have the details about, okay, this product is in this particular rack, okay, we have to take it up, and whatever their warehouse related activities is, so they will pack it up and then they send it to the dispatch team, and dispatch team will use the logistic management system, another product by Sterling, logistic management system, which will decide what kind of logistics to use to deliver this particular product. Alright, so as you can see, there are multiple products here. So we're going to talk about how WCS integrates with this particular products. Okay. So we're not going into detailed depths of how do you work with these products. We are only going to say how WCS will connect with this product. Now, each of this product is a technology by itself. So it's a different code and different skill set. All right. So we'll be talking about how to integrate with those systems. All right. Now, IBM has got all these products today, the Sterling products, the warehouse management, all everything. So we're going to talk about what is WCS made up of and how does WCS integrate with these products for all these other activities. All right. Any questions? All right.
No.
Sorry. Go ahead, please. All right. Perfect. Next is the system-related topology. All right. So now this is a confusion that most people have. So because when we talk about WCS architecture, you can talk at it from different perspectives. So we are going to talk it from the admin perspective. At the admin perspective, what we do, we talk about the servers. All right. So in this server, we'll have the database component. In this server, we'll put the web server. In this server, we'll node will put the application server. So we decided at that level. So then it's going to integrate using web service, this particular backend system. This is going to make a let me say what do you say? A different type of integration with a, so one could be a web service, one could be a real-time integration call that you have made. So you will talk about it from that perspective. All right. But if suppose you are a developer or in WCS, your architecture might be different. You will be talking it from the application perspective. So this is made up of the web container, this has the EGP container, this has got, so you will talk about it from that perspective. So what we are going to talk about is from the system level architecture. So we're going to talk about the different system topologies, how you can add those different components that we talked about in WCS. We're going to talk about that in detail. The different components that you have in WCS, that is your database component, your application server, your web server, all those things. How do you put it in different servers to give you high performance and high availability systems. So we're going to talk about how do you distribute this component so that you get a high availability and high performance system, because your production setup is always going to be highly available and also high performance. Otherwise, you don't get good performance, people will not come to your site. So right, so we'll talk about it from that perspective. And also we're going to talk about the different editions of WCS, like how your VAS comes in, base edition, express edition, NT. Similarly, WCS also comes with different edition, express, professional, and enterprise edition. We're going to talk about the editions and their differences. What is the difference between them, so that you'll be able to take a call on which type of, because each of them there is a cost variance and the feature differences. So based on your client requirements, you will have to suggest the right one to them. Of course, as an administrator, you might not do it initially, but once you reach about 4 or 5 years of experience, you'll have to talk about this with the client maybe. So when you start interacting with the client on the solution provider side, where you become an architect, that time it might be useful. So you'll have to talk about that. So we're going to talk about what are the different editions and what are the main differences between them. All right. So yeah. And component level architecture, like I told you, what are the different components that IBM is, WCS is made up of, is what we're going to talk about. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about, and this will take about 3 days. We're going to talk a few more topics on the different business models and all those stuff that is going to be needed as part of this course. So we'll be talking about this. So this first 3 sessions are more theoretical in nature. All right. Any questions?
Vinayak. So I do see, the architecture part looks okay, but do you have agenda of what topics will be discussed? Is that coming next sometime?
Yes, this, like I told you, there are 7 slides that are going to be covered. This is the first slide. Yes, we're going to talk about that next.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks. But other than that, we're good.
All right, so fine. So this is about the architecture side. So once you have this base knowledge, we go into the next part where we start installing our setup. So whatever the installation that is decided, all right, for this client, this is the setup that we are going to have. So once that is decided, you go on to actually do the setup. Okay. So from here on, our hands-on will start. So we'll start doing actually. So in this session, what I might talk only for the 10-15 minutes at the beginning, telling this is what we are going to do today, and we go on to do it actually. All right. So like I said, the same will be shared by Mr. Amir to you, so you can also start the setup yourself also. So I'll be showing it in my setup. You'll be practicing it on your setup, so that if at all you have any questions, we meet the next day and discuss your doubts or questions that you might have. Because whenever I show you something, you might think, oh, I understand. But when we do the practice, that's when we face problems, right? So that's what. So when you practice on your own, you might come up with difficulties that you face. So we will be discussing about those points in our next day session before we begin that day session. All right. So here in this particular section, we are going to talk about the installation of the different setups. The first point talks about the different hardware and software requirements for installing WCS version 7. So you might be familiar with this aspect. So whenever you want to install any software, you first need to know what is the minimum hardware or software that is needed to do the setup. So we'll be talking about it from the WCS perspective. To install the WCS version 7, what are the hardware and software requirements, prerequisites. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about the different environments that you might have. Now, since you're all coming from the VAS background, if at all you're involved in a VAS project, you will generally have a test, first the developer environment, where your developers will test whatever they have done. And then what happens, it will go to the QA, the testing environment, where your QA team will test it. Then you will have the UAT environment, user acceptance testing. And then you will have a production system where you will actually go live with, all right? But in WCS, you have one more environment which is called as the staging. All right. So we're going to talk about all these different environments that you will be involved with during the project phase. All right. What are the different environments and what type of setups that will be? We're going to talk about that in detail. Now, what might be new to you is the staging and authoring. Now, what is the staging and authoring? Now, what is the staging and authoring is nothing but, see, once you go live, your application is not that it is all the same like most advanced applications. Once you set it up, it's going to be more or less the same. But with WCS, it's not going to be the same. It's going to keep changing. What it is, remember, it's an online shop, right? You do online shopping on it. So that means you have products to sell. Now, your business team will keep changing it. So that is the client for whom you have done the project. They'll keep adding new products, deleting the old products, removing the old products, and then changing the price of a product, changing the product image, whatever. So they keep making these changes. Now, you should not directly do it on the production environment. So what we do is we have a parallel environment which is called as the staging. All right. So what happens is this staging environment is not available online. It is not for the internet users. It's only for the business. It's only for the client, for the company for whom you are doing the project. They will make the changes on this. So whatever changes they have to do, adding new, removing the product, adding and removing products, or changing the image of the product, changing the price of the product, or coming up with a promotion telling, buy this product, you get 20% discount, like whatever changes that they have to do. All right. So this is the business team. So their function is to present whatever they have to present on the online store. So that is the job. They do it. So they do it on the staging server. And then what we do is we push all the changes to the production. We do an operation called what is called a staging propagation. What does that do? Whatever changes your business team has done, you propagate it to the production. That means you push it to the production. And you usually do it during off-peak hours, usually during the night when there is not much traffic. What you do, you push all the changes to the production. So next day morning when I come and check your site, I'll see the new changes that you have done, new products added, whatever. So that's the staging environment. So staging environment is not online, it is for the business team. They make the changes there and we push the changes to the production. We'll be talking about how all this works. Alright. So then there is the authoring environment. Now authoring environment is very similar to staging, but it is a high-end staging. That's what I can call it as. Okay. So excuse me. So just give me a second, please. Sorry. Okay. So authoring is an environment which is a high-end staging. Now just recall what we talked about staging. Staging, I said your business team will keep making the changes, and usually during the night you will push all the changes to the production. Alright. Now that's fine when you are talking about a small organization, like let me say you're talking about Sony company. In that, what happens, they only sell their products, their TVs, their cameras, whatever they have, they sell only their products. So the number of changes that take place in their site is much smaller. So you can do that in a staging server. But think about this kind of sites like eBay, Amazon, alright? Now you know the changes that take place on this kind of sites are enormous because they talk about millions of products, right? So when they have that kind of products, the changes that happen is almost every moment, you can say, not like once in a while. So for that you need a high-end environment, a high-end staging environment, which is called as authoring environment. So we'll be talking about that. What is the difference between a staging and authoring environment? So generally this you can say is a high-end staging environment. All right. Any questions about the different environments?
We are good.
So what exactly are we going to be doing is we're going to talk about what are the different environments and how do you install them. Now basically most environments are similar except for some changes between the environments, like staging, how do you set up is different, how do you set up authoring is different, how do you set up your runtime is different, how do you set up your internal server like your development server that is used by the development team, and what is used by your testing team, your QA team, will be slightly different from all the different environments. So we'll be talking about the differences in the environment, how do you set up them. We'll be doing setup of only one environment, but we'll be talking about the difference and how do you set up, because once you can set up one environment, it's going to be very similar to all other environments. So we'll be talking about The difference between them and how do you set them up. Okay, so that's going to be our second point. Now next is, we'll be creating what is called as a WebSphere Commerce instance. Now coming from VAS background, you know, when you want to install VAS, you install the software stack first and then you create a runtime. So software stack is just an application when it does not do anything. Unless you want to use an application or something, what you do, you create a profile. Once you create a profile, then only you have the runtime. You have the services that is running, so on which you can deploy your application and open it up for the internet, whatever. Similarly, what happens in WCS setups, we install WCS, and you know WCS is nothing but it's an application on VAS. Okay, so but the thing is, you don't create a profile here. What do? You create what is called as an instance. So the installation steps are slightly different from your typical other applications. Most applications that you set up on VAS, what you do, you install the VAS software stack, and then you create the profile, and then you deploy the application, and then you create the data source correction and whatever. So right, but here in WCS you don't do it that way. You do it from the WCS perspective. That is, you install WCS and then you create an instance. When you create the instance, it creates a VAS profile. Alright, so we're going to go into the details about what all happens during instance creation. One of the steps is profile creation, but there are other steps. We're going to talk about that in detail. So we'll be talking about how to create the WebSphere Commerce instance. So once you've installed the different software, you will be creating the runtime. That's what this instance is. So you can create the instance like, you know, how you create profile. You can create it using a GUI tool, or you can do it from command line. So same thing, your instance creation also can be done using a tool called Configuration Manager. So you have a specific tool in WCS called IBM WebSphere Commerce Configuration Manager. This is a GUI tool for creating the instance. You can also do it from the command line. We'll be talking about how you do both of them. Alright, so that's the next step. Then it's not always that you will get projects which is new. That means the client is new to WCS. He has just purchased the WCS software and he wants you to set it up for them. Right? Sometimes what happens, there might be an older client. That means they have used the earlier versions, version 6 and version 5.4, whatever the version that they have, and you might want to migrate. They have decided that they are going to migrate because WCS 7 gives more functionality, more features. So if at all you have to do migration, how do you do this migration? Okay, migration is moving from the older software stack to the newer software stack. How do you do that? Right. Next point, we are going to talk about troubleshooting the installation. So it's not always a clean installation. Sometimes your installation might fail. Okay, so basically you have not met the prerequisites. That's when it might fail. So if it fails, how do you troubleshoot? So what are the log files you have, and how do you read the log files, and how to understand what has gone wrong? So you will have to. We'll be talking about the different log files for the WCS that you have, and we'll be looking into what should be the actual good, the good scenario. So what should you find in the log file so that it's a good scenario. If it fails, you'll find some error messages, so we'll be talking about those files. Right? Now one more thing is, your WCS is a global product. It is not a local product. That means it's not for one area. So what I mean by that is, once you install WCS, you can have multiple stores, online stores. It's not one store, it can be multiple. Now why do you have multiple stores? You might want to have regional based store. One, you might have the US store. The US store, what you will have US English as the language, and then you will have the US dollar as the currency. Now this could be a universal store, and anybody from the internet can access it. But the thing is, if suppose this is the only store, what will happen is, people from China, let me say you have your operations in China also. So if suppose you want Chinese people to use the English side, there are going to be little problems. That is, okay, you know, it's not everybody understands English in China. A few people might understand, few might not. They would prefer in their local language. So you might want to have a store for the Chinese people in the Chinese language and their local currency, so that they have stores. So that means with the same WCS implementation, you have two stores, one for US, one for China, one for India, one for Australia. You can have multiple like this. Alright. So for the different regional setting. That's one reason. One more reason why you might want to have multiple stores is for a company which has got multiple product lines. Like think about a company like Reliance. You know, you have seen this Reliance Digital. In Reliance Digital, what they have all the electronic products and the kitchen, household products. Then if you go to Reliance Trends, you have the fashion material, the dress materials. Then you have the Reliance Fresh, which is the grocery. So they have different product lines. They want to put everything in one store. They want to have different stores. They want to have Reliance Price. They want to have Reliance Strength. They want to have Reliance Digital. So with the same WCS, they might get one WCS license, and you can have multiple stores for this one. So you have multiple stores in WCS for regional differences and for also for different product lines. So you can have multiple online stores. Fine. So we're going to talk about how WCS implements these global features. Global features are two main things: multiple languages and multiple currencies. How does it support? A single installation, how does it support all these features? We're going to talk about that here. Alright. Any questions on this? This is going to be the second part of our training, where we'll be basically setting up the environment. Alright. Any questions here?
No.
Alright. Now, the third part is, I would say, the most important part of your training. Alright. So because some of them are very similar to your VAS. It's not exactly same. The installation, how you do, is going to be slightly different. But what you're going to learn here is unique to WCS. Okay. So you've done so many applications. You might have deployed some multiple applications on your VAS. Each application will behave different, but then you also have a portal server. Once you have portal server, you have portal specific configurations that you might perform. Alright. Similarly, these are commerce specific. So once you have a commerce application on your VAS, you will be performing some commerce specific operations. That's what is covered here. Alright. So let's go through them. Now, the first 3 points talk about having an online store. So what happens once you set up the software? You will have to set up the online store. Now, to set up the online store, first you need to understand the business model of your client. So what type of business they are doing. Now, when you say online business, they are not only one type. Okay, I'm just talking about e-commerce business. E-commerce itself, online e-commerce is not just one type. There are multiple types. You might have worked with them. So one of them is what we call as a B2C store. In a B2C store, what happens? You have a business selling products for the consumers, business to commerce. Now, the best example for this is, like I've already given, is Sony. Okay, or it could be Reliance Digital or Reliance Trends, whatever. What do? They sell their products for you to go and buy, for consumers to go and buy. We call this kind of models as B2C. Now, the other model is what is called as B2B. In B2B, what happens? You have an online store, but you don't sell it to consumers, but you sell it to other businesses. So what is that? That is nothing but, I might be a manufacturer, or I might be a wholesaler. So what do? I buy the product from somebody else and I sell it. I don't sell it at retail, but I sell it to other businesses. So for other businesses, what will happen is, you might say it is very similar to commerce, B2C. Yes, it is. But in a B2B model, what happens is, you will not sell it to everybody. So what happens is, in a B2C model, when I make the purchase, I make the payment immediately. Okay, in a B2B kind of a model, you might have the credit system where you will deliver the product and after 15 days I'll send you the check or whatever, generally that. And then what happens is, you will have different selling prices. What I mean by that is, if suppose I'm coming to your store and buying only 10 products at a time, you might sell it to me at a particular price. But there's another business who's coming and buying it to you in thousands. They buy it in 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 like that. Then the price to which you sell him the same product which you sold to me is going to be different, because he's giving you volumes, so the price is going to be different. So basically you will have contracts. So that is, when I build a business partnership with you, you'll tell, okay, so I come and tell every time when I come, I'll place order for 10 or 15 units like that. So you would have built a contract into the system telling, okay, whenever he logs in, give him this price. Whenever that particular person logs in, who is buying in thousands, you might give him a different price. All right. So in a B2C and a B2B, there are some slight differences. So that's what we're going to talk about in that. Now, there's one more common business model in e-commerce, which is the marketplace. Now, talk about this Amazon and today almost all sites, main online stores that you have, eBay and Snapdeal and Flipkart, whatever. They are like, it's like a market. In a market, what happens? You walk into a market to buy. So you are the shopper. Okay. But who's selling in the market? There will be multiple players who are selling, right? So you might have one person who is selling some particular item. Another person, another shop might be selling another item. So in a market, you have multiple shops, and different people selling. Now that's what is a marketplace in WCS or in any e-commerce. Marketplaces, many people will sell it and many people will come and buy it. So multiple sellers. That's what you have in Amazon, right? You can also go and sell it on Amazon or Flipkart or any other site. So that's like a marketplace. So I implement the WCS and then I allow other sellers to come and sell on my implementation. Alright, on my WCS, I allow the other sellers to come and sell it. Alright. Now these are the three main models of WCS. Of course, there is this supply chain, demand chain. Now WCS products, though this functionality is provided, the supply chain, demand chain, it is not used much. It's used mainly for these three business models: B2C, B2B, and marketplace. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about the different business models in general. So what I gave you is a small introduction. We're going to talk about in more details about what are the differences between them. So business models and how do they function differently. So we've discussed the differences slightly different now. We're going to go in detail. So then what happens is IBM provides these different business models as store archives. Now what's a store archive? Now imagine if you have to develop everything from scratch. Now in an online store, what do you have? The first thing that you do in an online store is first you go and browse and search for the products that is there, that they are selling in the site. So you'll go and see they're selling this product, they're selling that particular product. You go and browse, and then if you like some products, you add it to your shopping cart. Now we call this flow as in WCS as the browsing flow, where you browse and select the products you need. So browsing flow. Then you have another flow which is called as a checkout flow. What is the checkout flow? Once you have added what you want to buy, you go through the checkout flow. In the checkout flow, what do? You provide the addresses. So you will tell, I want to place this order, and this is the shipping address and this is the billing address. And then you will go to the next page where you provide the payment details. You will provide the card details or your PayPal account or whatever the mode of payment is. You make the payment. And then you get the summary page telling, yes, this is the order you are placing and this is the payment you are making. Do you confirm? So once you click on the confirm button, your order will be placed. Your payment gateway connection will be made. The payment would be approved. And then what happens? You will get an order confirmation telling your order has been successfully placed, and an email also would arrive to your mailbox. Alright. So this is what we call as a checkout flow. So that's the next flow. And one more thing is, you might have the account flow. In account flow is nothing but you might have registered with the account. So every time you log in. So once you log in, what happens? Your profile data is already there. Your addresses, your payment details also you might have saved, whatever. So your data is already stored. So you can go and check your previous orders and what is the status of your order. All those details you can check. So this is what we call as account flow. Now any online application, online e-commerce application will have these three flows: the browsing flow, the checkout flow, and the account flow. Now if your developers have to develop all this functionality, it is going to take a lot of time. Alright, so the browsing flow, so people will be able to come and browse or search for it, and then they provide the address pages, the billing pages, all that. Development of all these pages will take time. So what IBM does is, they have developed all this and they give it to you. So they give it to you as a store archive. Now you know how developers give you something. They give you as a ER, enterprise archive, which is your application, or they might give you a WAR file, web archive. Alright, so you deploy that. Same way, what happens? IBM developed store archives for the different store models. So store archives, .sar, that's what you have, like .er, .war, okay, .jar, you have the .sar. .sar is nothing but it's a total online store where you have the browsing flow, the checkout flow, everything packaged for the different business models. B2C model, you have one store, one SAR file. You have for B2B, you have another. For marketplace, you have another. So like that, IBM provides you with the store archives. What do? They provide the store archive containing all the store assets. So what do? You take the store asset, you match it with the business model. So what kind of business your client is doing, for whom you are doing the project, you will find out what kind of business they are doing. Then you will select the right store archive and you will do what is called as a publishing. That's the first point. Publish a store using the publish wizard. You will be publishing the store. Alright. Now the first 3 points are about, once you set up your environment, you will be publishing the online store that is needed for your client. Alright. Any questions there?
No, Guna. Good.
Alright.
Yeah, Guna,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
You said about B2B, B2C, and market, right? So
Marketplace, correct. Yeah.
And like I know there's a other term called B2B2E, business to business to employee. So will you discuss about this also? Or?
Okay. That's nothing but, yeah, we'll be talking about that. Now, that's nothing but it is, see what happens in it is not just B2B and B2C. You can have it in multiple modes. What I mean to say is it can be B2B to C, meaning you might have one WCS implementation with which you will sell it to businesses and other businesses will sell it to consumers. That is what is B2B to C. That means one business will buy it from another business and then they sell it to consumers. So you can have this mix and match. Okay. Now what is this? What you talk about is one particular scenario where you have a B2B to E. Basically what happens is you're buying from another business and you're selling it to your employees. You might be selling to other consumers, but you might sell it to your employees. And generally employees, you give them additional benefit of giving them additional discounts. So you might give them some employee benefits. So that might be added within your software. Yes, that's more to do with development because it's nothing but it's a B2B to C only. That's modified so that employee get their benefits. Okay, so we'll be talking about that in a gist, not in detail, but I'll be talking about what is that. Yeah.
Okay.
Fine. So now, once you publish the store, you go on to configure the store. So you will have to manage what is called as the users and the organization and the groups and the roles. Now I talked about your business team managing the store, like adding new product, changing the product price, like that, right? So what happens in a business also, you have different people doing different functions. Okay, so you'll have the product manager. The job of the product manager is what? To add new products, remove old products, change the product price, that kind of work. Then you have the marketing manager. Now marketing manager, what is his main job? He understands the market trends and he'll come up with something. So now he knows the football season is coming up, or let me say the cricket season is coming up. So what happens is he might come with a promotion telling, buy any TV from us, you get a 20% flat discount. That's the period when you will have more sales in your television. So he will come up with that kind of a flow. Or it might be like, let me say, some festivals coming, Diwali or Christmas, whatever, or New Year. So what might happen is they might come up with a promotion. They know they are going to have more sales. So marketing manager will come up with a promotion. Buy this product, buy another product, get another product free. Or buy the whole catalog, anything you buy, you get a 25% discount. So you will have the festival discounts, whatever. Now that's the marketing manager's function. He will understand the market trends and he'll come up with some kind of a promotion. Main objective is to get more returns, that is more sales on your online store. That's the job of the marketing manager. So you have different roles. Alright, so you have those different roles. So you'll be creating those users. So once you set up your environment, you'll be creating the different users. Okay. Now these users will be generally the client themselves, because what we do is we set up the infrastructure and our developers. Alright, so there are three different roles that is in WCS. One is the administrators. That is what we are learning. Alright, so administrators will be more or less setting up the environment and managing the environment. Then you have the developers. What do developers do? They will make changes. They will make the customization. Like I told you, the SAR file is given to us, so which contains all this flow, all the browsing flow, the checkout flow, and the account flow. What happens is your business client might need make changes to it. That's what the developers are involved in. That's the second role. So administrators, developers. You have the other role which is called as the business users. Who are the business users? Generally it will be the business themselves. And what is their job? They manage what they sell on the store and how they sell it. See, once you have a shop, you'll have the shopkeeper who manages about what to sell in that shop and how to sell it. So that's his job. That's what happens when once you set up your environment, and once the developers have made all the changes that is needed for your client, the client will manage his store. So that's the business user. In the business user is what you have this different roles, the product manager, the marketing manager. There are so many other roles. We'll be talking about them. So you'll be talking about how to create those users and give them the different roles. So what will happen is once your project is going to go live, you'll ask them to tell the users who will be managing the backend systems. The backend is the people who will be managing the store. how and what to sell. So you'll ask what their user IDs are, and then what role they play, and then you create the user IDs. So that's what you're doing here. Alright, so you'll be creating the users and their roles. Now what is organization? Now organization is nothing but it's a grouping. Okay. Now what is this grouping? Like I told you, you can have multiple online stores with a single WCS. Like I told you, it could be because of multiple product lines, or it could be because of multiple regions, US store, China store, like that. Now what happens when you create a product manager, you want different people to manage different store. I want the product manager in US only to manage the products in the US store. I want the product manager in China to manage only the products in the China store. So you need to group these users and the stores. Alright, so how do you group them? That's what these organizations are. So you create an organization, and within the organization you will add the store, your online store, you will add the users and give them the roles. So what happens when a user makes any changes, it applies only within that particular organization. It does not apply to other organizations. We'll be talking about how to create those organization structure. Alright, any questions? This is an important point. Alright. We'll be talking about how to configure email activity. The next 2 points that is there is how to configure emails and how do you send different messages. Alright. Now once I place an order, I'll get an order confirmation email telling, yeah, your order has been successfully placed and we'll ship it to you within 7 days or whatever. Then once you ship it, I'll get a shipping confirmation mail telling your order has been shipped and this is your tracking URL. Okay. And if I come and register at your site, you might give me a welcome mail telling thank you for registering at our site, whatever. So you have those different types of emails that will be sent. Apart from this, you'll also have marketing mails telling you'll send all the mails to all your registered users telling we are going to have a sale at our store, 50% discount on all products. Okay, buy now for the next 3 days only. So you want to send these marketing mails to your team, your users who are registered. So that's what this is about. How do you configure the different emails and how do they function? We're going to talk about them. Alright. Next is we're going to talk about the scheduler activities. So coming from the admin background, you might already have configured the operating system schedulers, which will at a particular time run and do some particular function. Now you as a WCS administrator, you will use the operating system schedulers, but WCS also has got its own scheduler engine. Okay. So WCS also has got its own scheduler engine. Like one scheduler that I talked about is once the return period is over, one scheduler will run and close the order I said. That's this particular scheduler. So we'll be talking about how to configure the scheduler to do it whatever the store function that is needed. So configuring the different store functionality. Okay. Next is build, package, deploy, and verify custom assets. Now what is this? Is nothing but this is about deployment. So your developers make changes, I said. So what you do, you need to deploy the application. Now you might be familiar with the going to the VAS console and updating your application. Alright. Now in WCS you can do that, but WCS has got its own tool which is called as the WCPD, WebSphere Commerce Build and Deploy. So it's got a custom tool with which you can deploy the WCS artifacts. We're going to talk about how to use this tool to do deployment. Okay. You can do the VAS deploy, but generally not recommended, because WCS has got its own tool which is called the WCPD. We'll be talking about how to use this tool to do the deployment instead of doing the application update or application deployment from your VAS console. Okay. Now this might look like a single point, but it takes about 3 days to complete. One day I'll be talking about how do you do manual deployment in VAS. Okay. So which you would have done, but WCS has got slightly different functionality. We'll be talking about that, and then how do you use this particular tool, WCPD tool, to do deployment? That will take another 2 days. We'll be talking about that. Right? Any questions so far?
No, I think I'm good.
Right. Perfect. If there are no questions, let me know. Now next is how to use staging. Now, in the earlier slide, we talked about setting up the staging environment. Now, staging environment is what I said. It's an internal server where your business will make the changes, add new products, change the product price, come up with promotions, whatever. And then what we do, we push the changes to the production. That's what we said, right? So that it's available online. Now, how do you do that particular activity? That's what we're going to talk about. What is the staging and how does the staging work? And what you as a WCS administrator do with staging is what we're going to talk about. Okay. Then another tool that WCS has got is called as the data load. Now what is this data load tool? Now to add one product in WCS, you have a GUI tool for that. Okay, now to use this GUI tool to add one product, it takes about 15 minutes if you have been experienced. If you have been using this tool almost daily, that means you know what is what. So that means you know what to paste where or what to type where. So you know that. So in that case, it takes about 15 minutes to add one product. Okay, so if you're doing it for the first time, you'll have to read and do everything. So it will take more time. So it takes more time than that. So that means if you're an experienced person, it takes at least 15 minutes to add one product. Okay. Now imagine when you're having a store, you'll have hundreds or thousands of products. We talked about eBay and this one where they have millions of products. So let us say we have thousands of products. So to add thousands of products using this GUI tool, it takes a lot of time. Alright, so one product is 50. So you think about 100 products. So it takes a long time. So WCS, IBM has provided a tool which is called as the data load tool. Now using this tool, what happens? We collect the data in a CSV format and then we load it. Okay. Now whether you want to load 10 products or whether you want to load 100 products, this tool takes the same time. You know, it's a tool. Alright, so it does it faster. So when you have hundreds of products to be loaded, doing it manually from the GUI tool is not practical. So there's a tool for it. We'll be talking about this particular tool and how to use this particular tool to load the data. Alright, so that's the next section we're going to talk about. Next we're going to talk about workspaces. Now workspace is nothing but, if you recall, we saw this one. So staging and authoring. Now I told you what is authoring. Authoring is nothing but it's an advanced form of staging. Alright. Now what is authoring is nothing but it's an environment with workspaces. Okay. Now what is this workspace and how do you use this is nothing but we're going to talk about this particular case. So basically we are going to talk about what is the difference between staging and authoring in this section. Okay. So how do you use the workspaces? So workspaces you find only in authoring. You don't find it in staging. So we'll be talking about what is this authoring environment, workspace environment, and how to use them. All right. So workspace enabled environment is called as authoring environment. Workspace enabled environment is called authoring environment. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Let's go to that detail when we go to that particular section. Now, how WCS supports social commerce? Now today, it's not. See, the main thing is once you set up your store, you have to drive more business to it. So you want more people to come and log in and buy. Then only you get the return for your investment, right? So for that, how do you promote your site? So one of the ways to promote is using social networking sites. Okay. So what is the social networking way of promoting your site is nothing but you might have seen in your friends, your friend would have posted some this one telling your friend likes this particular product. Okay, likes this particular product. Now what happens is when you see that on his, maybe you are also wanting to buy that particular product and your friend has already bought. So you want to go and see why did he buy this, or you want to go more detail. So what you do, you click on that link. When you click on that link, what happens? It takes you to the commerce or e-commerce site where you see about the product. That means you have done the first task of bringing the user to the online store. So once he comes to the store, whether he buys or not, it depends on how you market on your online store. Now this is about social commerce. Alright. So how to integrate WCS with social commerce sites. So what will happen is on my store, that is on my e-commerce store, what I would do is I might have a product, and below that I would have said, if you like our product, click on this product. If you click like product, you will get a 5% discount or a 10% discount. So what happens? You are planning to buy that particular product, and you are being enticed, telling you if you like our product, you will get a 10% discount. So what will you do? You will click on that particular button because you are going to get 10% discount. But when you click on this button like, what happens is this will go to your profile page, your Facebook profile page, which says this particular person likes this particular product. So what happens when I come and see my Facebook this one, and if I'm your friend, I'll be seeing all the products that you have liked. So that means I might be interested, I might also click on that. So once I click on that, you're bringing me to your site. So this way what is happening is you're driving more people to your site. Okay. Now that's about social commerce. So how do you integrate all this functionality with social networking sites? It could be Facebook, it could be Twitter, it could be anything else, Instagram, everything. So you're going to have these integrations. So how does WCS supports this social commerce? We're going to talk about that. It's more of a developer activity, but we should enable some functionality. We'll be talking about that. Next is today, that's what I was reading today. In another couple of years, more than online store, mobile stores are going to be more popular. So today, most of us do place orders from our smartphones. We don't always log into our PCs or laptops or whatever. So we use the traveling devices. It could be your tablets, it could be your mobile phones itself, and you place the order from your phone. So I was reading in 2 years, mobile commerce is going to overtake the e-commerce solution itself. Okay, mobile commerce also is a kind of e-commerce, but the thing is, there's going to be more mobile usage than the typical desktop or the laptop usage. That's what it's been common. So how does WCS support mobile commerce is what we're going to talk about. So again, you will have to enable the functionality. Your developers will configure the pages for that. All right. Now, one more main thing that you do when you have online store is payment. So this could be typical with other applications. You'll have to integrate with the payment plugin gateway. Payment gateway, right? So how do you do that? Okay, you might have done it. We'll be talking about how to do that for WCS, because there's one small change that is there in WCS which you might not have done in other applications. Okay, if at all you have done any payment gateway integration with any of your other application, you do the same steps here, but there's going to be one small difference here. We're going to talk about that. All right. Now these are WCS specific topics. All right. Now once you complete all this, you're more or less your store is ready. You have published the store. You have made the users, and you added the products that you want to sell. You have configured the emails. You've created the users, and then you have the schedulers. You have deployed the customization done by your developers. You have all the things configured. You have the payment gateway, everything done. So that means you are more or less ready to go live. Okay. Now, whatever we saw in these 3 slides are generally what you do during the project phase. All right. Once you do this, you go live. Any questions so far? All right. So the next questions. Now next is, once you go live, you will be part of the support team as well. All right. So what do you do as part of the support? That's what we're going to talk about. So we have 4 sections for it. Okay. Each talking about different topics. So first one is, you do the general monitoring. So what is this monitoring? This is where you check the server health. Your servers are all available. Everything is working fine as it should. That's what you basically do it. All right. So here we will be talking about how to install fixes, fix packs and feature packs. Now you would have done iFix installation. What is a fix? It's a bug fix. All right, and you might also have done the fix pack installation in WAS. Similarly, you also get fix packs for WCS also. So there's a difference in how you deploy WCS fix pack from WAS fix pack. Okay, in one way it is similar, but there's one additional step that you do in WCS. We'll be talking about that also. So how do you install this fix pack? Because once you find there is a product bug, IBM will release a fix for it. You will have to install it. So how do you install it? So we're going to talk about that. So these are the fixes are the fix packs. The fixes and fix packs are bug fixes. Then you also have what are called as feature packs. Now what is feature pack? Feature pack is nothing but IBM releases new features in feature pack. Okay, for the WCS they release new features. So that's what this feature pack is. So you'll be talking about how to install this feature packs in feature packs. The second section will be looking at the different logs that you have. In WCS, we have 3 types of log. One of the logs we've already seen, installation logs. Like I told you, if any installation fails, you'll be looking at this log files. Now, the second type of log files is this, what we call as the configuration log files. Now, when you do some WCS configuration, there are log files created for that. So that's what this one is. We're going to talk about, look at what are the configuration log files you have and how do you read them and how do you understand them. There's one more set of log files which we'll talk a little later, which is the runtime log, which you might have seen, your system out log, trace log, whatever. All right. Now these logs are for troubleshooting your application generally. So if at all any online, so if I come and place an order and my order is created, but I didn't get a confirmation mail or something, so I might have raised a ticket with you. So for that, what do you do? How do you troubleshoot that? We're going to talk about what is called as runtime logging. So what we are talking about here is what are the log files that you have for configuration for WCS, and how do you look into them and how do you identify what is the problem. Okay, so we'll be looking into that. Now there's one more tool that WCS provides, which is called as the DB clean tool. Okay, now DB clean is to clean up your database. Okay, now the WCS database is quite huge and it keeps growing at an alarming rate. Now, based on what all data you collect, your database keeps growing larger and larger. So if your database becomes very large, it takes more time to query. So that means it takes more time to fetch your result. That means your performance is getting a hit. So what you should be doing is you should be cleaning up the unnecessary records. You should remove the data that you don't need. So we'll be talking about how to use this tool to clean up. So you don't run SQL queries. You don't say go delete from this particular table. You generally don't do like that. You use this particular tool because this tool takes care of a few things. If you do a SQL query, delete, it will delete some needed data. But if you are using this database cleanup tool, it ensures that only unnecessary data is removed and not the required data. We'll be talking about how this works. Alright, so how this works. So we'll be talking about what is unnecessary data and how does it remove only the unnecessary data and not the needed data. So how to use a DB clean tool is what we're going to talk about here. Now all this are part of your support, monitoring, general health. One more is scheduler activities. Now, like how you check your server health, you'll also check whether all the schedulers have run. Okay. Now imagine what happens is like after 7 days a scheduler should run and close the order I said. Now once the order closes, what happens? I'll not be able to make a return. So that is your return policy says if at all you don't like product, you can return within 7 days. So what happened was I'm trying on 8th day. What will happen if suppose your scheduler has run? What will happen? It will tell now your return period is over. You can't return it after 7 days. I'll get an error message. Then I know I've crossed the limit. Then I will not be able to make a return. Alright, fine. But if suppose that scheduler did not run, what will happen? The order would not be closed. In that case, what happens? It will be in the returnable state. So that means even after 8 days, 10 days, if the scheduler has not run properly, what will happen is I'll be able to come and return it even after 10 days because it's a system, it's a software. Okay. So what should happen is your order should have been closed so that I cannot do this particular function. Now what happened? All this is done by scheduler I told. Now this is one function. Now there are many other functions that schedulers do. So one of the monitoring tasks that you do as part of your server monitoring is you will check all the servers are running fine, working, functioning fine, everything. One of the things you will check also is schedulers, whether all your schedulers have run properly or not. If they have not run, you will have to troubleshoot and fix it. Otherwise what will happen is people will be able to take like this kind of advantage or whatever other tasks that has the scheduler has to perform. So we'll be talking about how to monitor the scheduler activities and take necessary action. Now one more support activity that you perform is backing up. Now you might have done this, backing up your database, backing up your configuration, you might back up your application, whatever. So how do you do the backup and how do you restore the backups that you have so that in case you have a disaster, how do you recover from the disaster? We'll be talking about those aspects. Now this is about the monitoring tasks. Okay, maintenance and monitoring tasks. Any questions?
No.
Alright. Next section we're going to talk about is security. Now in this section we're going to talk about how do you have security at your site. Now remember I'm coming to make a purchase. That means I'm going to use my card to make a payment. Now I know what I came to your site does not mean that you don't have a secure site. So what happens when I use my card, somebody captured my data and they're misusing it. Now this happened because your site was not secure. Now you don't want to have this kind of thing. So then what will I will tell? I'll start spreading the news saying, no, I went to the site and made a purchase, this is what happened and I had to call my bank to close my card and reissue me a new card, whatever. Those kind of activities. So if I do that, it's like negative propaganda for you. Alright. Now you don't want that to happen. So you need to have a secure site. So that's what we're going to talk about it. So what is the vast security that you have? You might be aware of this. We're going to talk about the vast security and what WCS security you have. The first point talks about WCS security. The second point talks about vast security because WCS is an application of vast. So you will generally use the security functions that you have in the vast also. So how do you use both this to give you the best security that you have? Then you have what is called as access control. Now access control is nothing but, see, for some users you only let them to shop. That means I'm a shopper, you'll only allow me to buy the product I want and then make the payment. Now you don't give me the permission to make changes to the product, like changing the price of the product. That is done by your business team. So what happens is each people have different function. Like shopper can only shop, product manager can change the price, marketing manager can come up with some promotions. Okay, like this. So you have access control environment in WCS. We're going to talk about what is this access control and how it does it. So we're going to see about how to configure that access control. Now one more thing is, now once you have this access control, you need to audit it. Now that's what this one is. apply business auditing. Now you give the product manager the permission to make changes to the price. Now, when I am a product manager and I make changes, generally I should do what is right for the company. Now let me say, if I do something, I want to misuse the system. Now, it can happen also, right? I want to misuse the system. So I want to buy one product. So what I do, I just go and change the price of the product a little more lesser. I buy the product and I change back the price to the original price. Now, these things don't generally happen, but I'm just telling, but the possibility is there. So you need to audit it. So you want to know who's doing what. Though you have given me the permission to change the prices, I should not misuse my permissions. All right. So how do you audit it? Because in case that happens, you need to find out who happened, who did it. Now you would have seen this is a common topic that we discussed, right? So people capture the card data and then they sell it to others, right? Now this again is a security functionality. Now if you want to know who did it from your organization, so you know that somebody has taken some card data and they have sold it. You want to find out. You need to audit. Unless you audit, you will not know. That means audit is basically find what each and every user is doing. Only when you know, then you can find out who did it, so that you will be able to frame him. Right? The same thing. So you need to have business auditing. WCA supports that function because any secure application needs this functionality. So WCA supports it. So we'll be talking about how to use this business auditing function. So you have access control and then you have the business auditing. Then how do you integrate with LDAP? Now you might want to provide single sign-on, right? So that's what generally why do you make connection to LDAP? So to have a single sign-on functionality, you might have multiple applications. So that is, you might have different stores. Okay, one is an e-commerce store, one is some other store, and you want to have these users to go between those sites without having to log into each store separately. So that's what is the single sign-on. So how do you support WCS to provide you with single sign-on functionality using LDAP? Okay. Now you might already have worked with LDAP at the VAST level. Now we're going to talk about LDAP at the application level, commerce application level. All right. Then SSL certificate implementation. Now you might have done this. So we'll be talking about how to implement SSL certificates at the application level or at the integration level, whatever. So we're going to talk about this. Then one more topic about security that we often talk about is PCI. All right, PCI compliance. So we'll be talking about what is PCI compliance and how WCS supports PCI compliance. So that's the last point. All right. Any questions? All right. Now, the next section we'll be talking about is performance. Now, your site should perform good. All right. Otherwise, people will not come to it. Now, performance tuning is a skill by itself. That means you will have performance tuning specialists. Okay. But what we are going to talk about is how do you tune the basic settings. So you will, once you have your WCS setup, you'll have to configure the JVM heap size and the number of connections that you allow, all those things to some value, the initial value. That's what we're going to talk about. How do you set it up? And of course, if suppose you want good performance, you will have performance tuning specialists coming in and they will analyze your site and they will tell, okay, this is where we see the bottleneck and this is what needs to be tuned. Once they give the recommendation, you will tune it. So we'll be talking about from that perspective, how do you configure the minimal setting, and then if suppose there is a sudden drop in your performance, that means there is something that has changed. How do you identify what has changed and how do you fix it? That's what we're going to talk about. So you're not going to become, I'm not going to talk about more details about how do you do performance tuning, because that's a topic by itself you might have done. So even when you're working with VAS, though you are the VAS administrators, you might do in some settings of performance, but if you want real performance, you have specialists for it, right? So same way here, WCS also, you are going to be a WCS administrator. So tuning up your WCS application is going to mean what needs to be tuned. You'll have experts coming in and telling us what to tune, and then we go on to tune it. So we're going to talk about what is the recommended setting. Now this is the minimal setting that I was talking about. What is the recommended JVM settings for your commerce site? And then what are the VAS optimization techniques? What IBM is the suggested way of doing the VAS optimization? That's the last point here. So how do you do VAS tuning, and then how do you use this method to tune your JVM settings is what we're going to talk about. And one more way of tuning is using the performance monitoring infrastructure. You have a PMI tool in your VAS console. We'll be talking about how to use this tool to find out if there is a sudden problem. So yesterday it was fine, today it is not working fine. In that case, how do you identify? So using the PMI tool, we'll be talking about that. Okay. Now you might have worked with Dynacache. Okay. Now for some application, for other applications it might be a optional component, but for WCS, Dynacache is needed. So we'll be talking about how WCS supports Dynacache application and what you should be doing as a WCS administrator to set up Dynacache and how you configure Dynacache is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about this in maybe a 2-hour discussion on Dynacache, because WCS sites cannot perform without Dynacache. You need Dynacache for WCS. We'll also be talking about database performance tuning. So what you do to tune up your database. One of the activity we saw earlier was DB clean. But apart from that, there are some one more activity that you perform. Now, who does this activity? It could be a DBA, who's a database administrator, or you could do it yourself, okay, based on your role that you play in your organization. So, but WCS certification expects you to have knowledge on this. So we are not going to go into detail of all functionality of DBA. There are some WCS specific functions. That's what we're going to talk about here. How do you do database performance tuning? This is on performance tuning. All right. Any questions?
No.
All right. The last section of our training is going to be on troubleshooting. Now, you will be monitoring everything and everything is working fine, but it does not mean you will never have failures. Sometimes there will be failures, and how do you troubleshoot? All right. So that's the third thing that we are talking about, the third set of blocks, the runtime blocks. So how do you use the logs and traces for problem determination? All right. Now, you also will be looking into, all right, so this logs is for your generic logs, the VAS logs that you might have been familiar with. But WCS has got some additional component enabling. So that is, you enable some additional traces. How do you enable those traces and how do you troubleshoot WCS related specific applications? That's what we're going to talk about in the first one. Then some troubleshooting you do from the database tables. All right. So if suppose I complain that my payment I made, but it is not reflecting whatever. So in that case, you will have to look into the database tables and find out what is the details about that. So we'll be talking about how do you troubleshoot from database tables. So that means you're going to look at it from every aspect. So from your VAS aspect, WCS aspect, and your database aspect also. Basically, database aspect is for troubleshooting payment related issues. Okay. Now, IBM provides you some self-help tools like log analyzer. You might have seen memory analyzer, heap dump analyzer, like those things. So I'll be talking about them. Of course, we are not going to talk about how to use them. I'll be talking about these tools can be used for this functionality, and what tool I use generally, I talk about that also, so that it gives you some help on what tool you might be using some other tools. If at all you are familiar with it and you know it can solve your problem, you can continue. But I talk about what I use here, so that it helps you. So because IBM supports you, IBM expects you to know this particular tools. All right. So we'll only be talking about that. How to use them, what are the tools that is available, how to use that. There are a lot of online tutorials for it. IBM provides, once they provide this freeware tools, they also provide tutorials on how to use that particular tool. So you'll have to learn it from yourself. So basically, IBM expects you to just know that these tools are available. Then it's not that all problems can be solved by yourself. You need to approach IBM for help. So how do you raise a TMR and how do you follow up with IBM is what we're going to talk about in the last step. Okay. That's also part of your certification details. How do you raise a TMR and interact with IBM to get the problem closed. All right. This is about this particular training. So like I told you, it will be 1.5 hours daily, 6 days a week, and it will go on for about 6 weeks. So basically around 60 hours of training you have. All right. Any questions?
So Gunnar, I just wanted to ask you that are you going to include any kind of search service in this course anywhere?
So sorry, I didn't get your question.
Are you going to add or can you add any kind of search service like Solar or?
Yeah, sorry, that is part of the training here. So actually, when we talk about installation, Setting up solar is also part of the topic that we are going to talk about, because that's a WCS component today.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be talking about solar search server, not any other. You can you can integrate it with NDK and all that, but I'm not going to talk about that. But we're going to talk about solar search.
Yeah, that should be fine. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, Guna. I'm good.
All right, perfect then. So that's about this training. So you know what exactly you are going to learn in this particular training. So if at all you're interested, please get in touch with Mr. Ahmed. He will coordinate, and then once a batch is finalized, he will let me know, and we can start off the training. All right. Yes, Mr. Ahmed, you're there.
I am here, yes.
Guna, I have a couple of questions about the batch details and timing.
All right, sure. Let me take this question, then you can take over, Mr. Ahmed.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be a 9:30 to 11 kind of a class all the time, or?
All right. So again, depends on which time zone you are in. So usually, what I prefer is 6:30 or 7 o'clock India's morning. All right. So whatever that converts into.
Okay.
All right. Again, Mr. Amir will interact with you for the schedule. So, but it will be between 6:30 to 8 or 7 to 8:30. All right. So, Mr. Amir will interact with you. All right. Anything else?
I think that's it for now. Yeah.
One thing, sorry, this is Amir here. Mr. Guna, like if we can give them the possible slot, like 6:30 to 8:30 will be our time range. So
Yeah.
accordingly,
Yes.
accordingly, whichever time suits to all of us, we can start by 6:30 or 7.
Yeah, perfect. That's what.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. That's it from my side. Thank you, and please interact with Mr. Amir if you're interested, and he'll get in touch with you. All right? Yes, Mr. Amir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions for me from Ajay, Vinayak, or Vishnu? This is Amir here.
No.
How long, I mean, how many people are we expecting in a class?
Sorry?
Like, are we, I mean, what I want to say is, are we waiting on any other people? When is it anticipated to start? Like, do you have a magic number that we are waiting on?
Not that particular thing. Actually, 2 more people were there, but they have not responded yet. We may wait 1 or 2 days for them, and then we can start.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah. Anything else?
That's it, Amir. I'll probably get in touch with you offline, or email, or do you have a number where we can reach you on directly?
Yeah, sure. I'm sharing it. Yeah, I'm sharing it.
Yeah. If you could send me an email, that would be great, and I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure.
Tomorrow
I have got both Indian as well as US number. I'm sharing both.
Okay, fine. That's fine. And can you also give me the timings which will be available in? That will be helpful.
You can call me anytime evening in Indian time. That would be morning your anytime after 10 a.m. your time.
Okay, fine. Great.
Yeah, I have shared both my numbers, Indian and US. Sometime for US numbers, I may not be able to pick the phone at desk. In that case, I will reply to you.
That's all right. If I don't get an response, I'll just send you an email.
Sure. So, are we done for the session? Shall we close?
I think that's about it from me.
Okay. Okay then. Yeah. Ajay has already left. Yeah. Thanks, Vinayak and Vishnu. Thanks, Mr. Guna, for giving all this session. We will get back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Guna. Thank you.